Imagine playing a continuous game of tag your entire life, even as an adult. This group of friends just took competitiveness to a whole new level. Hi guys, welcome back to Movie Myth. In today's movie, we're going to be looking at the 2018 comedy Tag. Filled with over-the-top comedic moments, outrageous stunts, and an impressive comedic cast, the movie earned a 6.5 on IMDb, which is pretty impressive for a comedy. Jeremy Renner even broke his arm performing one of the stunts in this movie. Who breaks his arm while filming a comedy movie? So let's begin the games and look at the story behind the longest ever running game of tag. Right off the bat, we watch as a group of friends are playing tag together in 1983. The group grows older and never stops playing to remain close. Playing that game would shape the men that they are today. We are introduced to Dr. Malloy, a successful pediatrician with a PhD who for some weird reason is applying to be a janitor. Malloy tells his recruiter that there comes a time in a man's life when you just have to scratch off what's on your bucket list. The recruiter names countless other things he could be scratching off his bucket list instead, but Dr. Malloy replies that the only thing he wants to be doing right now is to clean the urine of that man's toilet seat. The man they are talking about is Bob Callahan, the owner of the company he's applying to. Malloy says, "Anything I can do to get closer to that guy, sign me up." Under any other circumstances, he would tell them to get out of his office, but they're short on staff, and asks him when he could get started. In a comedic moment, Malloy takes charge and then throws away the recruiter's can of Coke, confidently telling him that he's already begun working. Malloy tells him that he can start today and offers him another can before going to start his new career as a janitor. Malloy is looking ridiculous and suspicious wearing a disguise, wiping the windows of a conference room while following a man. We are approached by Bob, a wealthy-looking businessman, as he gives himself a pep talk before being interviewed by the Wall Street Journal. Bob heads inside the conference room and Malloy follows after him. Bob introduces himself to his interviewer, a reporter by the name of Rebecca. As Malloy observes them closely, Rebecca starts asking him questions about his company while Malloy makes a ruckus in the room, and Bob is looking very nervous as he asks the janitor to come back another time. Malloy reveals himself as the janitor, and Bob immediately panics while calling him Hoji, indicating that they know each other, and Hoji explains that he officially works there as the janitor. "You got a job at my company just so you could try to tag me." Hoji tells him to give up before Bob grabs a chair and throws it at the window to escape, but it comically bounces back and hits him. Hoji walks to him and tags him, telling him he's it. The friends embrace as Hoji tells him that Jerry is quitting. He explains that this mystery man named Jerry is retiring at the end of this season. Bob tells him that the matter can wait as he's in an interview, and Hoji thanks Rebecca for unknowingly providing him with the perfect distraction to tag Bob, as she appears to be confused and completely dumbfounded by the whole situation. Bob escorts him outside as Hoji explains that they have 63 hours to round up the guys and get Jerry. Rebecca completely ignores her interview and asks Bob to explain what's happening. Hoji comes back and stresses the magnitude of the situation. He tells Bob that this year they have a real shot because Jerry is getting married. He suggests they all join forces to get him. Rebecca follows them as they leave and asks again for an explanation. Hoji explains that their group of friends has been playing the same game of tag for 30 years. For the entire month of May every year, they play tag. You never know where or when someone comes to tag you. He reveals that Jerry has never been tagged. No one has ever been able to touch him. He explains that Jerry is not normal, always managing to get out of any situation he's put in, defying all logic. He's the best that ever played and intends to retire undefeated. Rebecca decides that this game is worthy of its own story and focuses on it instead of the original interview. She joins them as they travel to Denver, where we're introduced to a lazy pothead smoking inside his house. Someone knocks on the door and the unknown man finds a woman named Anna, who calls him Chili. He immediately becomes suspicious when he sees her and asks where Hoji is. Chili realizes that it's Maine and immediately slams her and starts to escape. Chili runs into Hoji, and they both catch up, and Chili tells Hoji to stop bringing his wife Anna into the game as she gets too intense. Chili bursts through the door Hoji is guarding and takes off running in a high-speed chase inside the building between the two. They break into random apartments, leaving a wake of destruction behind them. Chili even throws a random child at him and continues running. Chili realizes he's trapped and jumps off the staircase, passing out momentarily on the ground. He starts getting away before Hoji reveals something to him. Hoji's not it. Chili is immediately tackled by Bob. The three friends catch up before exchanging tags with each other until they call a truce, agreeing that this is no longer about them, and that they have a plan to finally get Jerry. They tell the spectating Rebecca that they're going to get their final friend, Sybil, and they all leave. We find ourselves in Portland, where Sybil is sitting with a therapist. Sable is paranoid as his therapist assures him that no one is out to get him. Immediately, we hear noises coming from the closet. The door is open to reveal all three friends who embrace him and tell him that they're going back home, and they travel to their hometown of Spokane, Washington. The gang arrives at Hoji's house and goes down to the basement, the war room. Hoji explains that they won't tag Jerry at the wedding ceremony itself as that would make them all jerks, and that there will be several different occasions to get him. Hoji's mom brings the boys pizza rolls and the gang asks her for any information about Jerry. They decide to go to the town bar where the bartender Lou would know everything about everyone. They get to the bar and begin questioning Lou for information. Lou says that he'll tell them everything they want to know in exchange for being allowed into the gang, but the gang tells him that it is not possible. Lou reveals that he struck a deal with Jerry to be allowed in the gang next year, as long as he doesn't help them. Bob uses Rebecca's article to get Lou to help them, and Rebecca plays along. He's tricked into telling them the location of the wedding rehearsal. Anna prank calls Jerry's fiancée and tells her that the rehearsal dinner reservation has been canceled. Jerry and his fiancée panic and announce that they're going to the club immediately, and the gang prepares for Jerry's arrival. A car drifts by the entrance as every man takes his position. A mystery figure exits the car and makes his way inside before grinning and says, "Hello boys, who's it?" As we realize that this is the legendary Jerry. Bob emerges as he attacks him in the most comedic fight scene of all time. Jerry narrates his fight like Sherlock Holmes as he dodges and takes out all of the gang at once, taking mental notes of who's it, and only hitting whoever is not, before he dives through a window and lands outside. The gang applauds Jerry for what he just did as they catch up. He mentions that he's never been tagged because the rest of them suck at the game. And Bob reveals to us that Jerry didn't invite any of them to his wedding, so he doesn't risk being tagged. Jerry introduces Susan, his fiancée, who tells them her family has a tradition of May weddings and she won't risk the wedding getting ruined by their game. The gang agrees to a momentary ceasefire, and Susan lists her demands to invite them to the wedding, listing different occasions that they're not allowed to play tag. They finalize the agreement and go their separate ways. The rest of the gang drink up at the bar and try to find a new plan to get Jerry. They show Rebecca an entire formal writing of the game's rules, and Hoji tells her of the entire history of the game and how he was even tagged on his father's funeral. The game gives them a reason to be in each other's lives, with the last person tagged to live in shame until the next year. Chili suggests they go to Jerry's house, but they tell him it's too obvious, to which he replies that it's exactly why he would be there, and they make their way to his house. They arrive and break inside, casually committing a crime before finding a note left by Jerry telling them that he's not there. They split up and continue their search anyway, but they are picked up by sensors. Sybil and Rebecca find equipment and maps of the city as they realize that Jerry has stepped up his game to avoid capture. Hoji and Bob find a TV and are called by Jerry, who talks to the entire gang and tells them that he's in Hoji's bedroom. The gang rushes to get to Hoji's house, but they find his room empty. Jerry reveals that he was in his own basement with a replica of Hoji's room, bamboozling the entire gang once again. Rebecca interviews the gang and they all agree that Jerry cannot be tagged and that what just happened to them is pretty standard. They reveal an old fight that happened between Bob and Chili in high school, hinting at some kind of feud there. The next day, Hoji takes the tag off Sybil as he claims he knows where Jerry is going to be. We follow Jerry picking up a tuxedo at the mall and discover that Jerry is some kind of fitness instructor. Jerry goes to help an old lady who dropped her purse, but he notices something off when he gets all Sherlock Holmes once again. Jerry realizes it's Hoji from the shoes he's wearing and begins deflecting his attacks. He narrates that he's been teaching a woman's self-defense class for 6 years in anticipation of this moment. He uses the purse as a weapon as he takes out Hoji in a hilarious fashion, refusing to be tagged. Hoji fights as if his life depended on tagging him, but Jerry pins him down and traps him. Hoji vows to take him down, and Jerry tells him of the extreme measures he's willing to take to not be tagged. Both of them will stop at nothing. Hoji is prepared to die to tag Jerry, while Jerry is prepared to die before he is tagged. At the rehearsal dinner, the gang counts down the time until it's over and they're allowed to tag Jerry. They discuss with Susan how competitive Jerry is, revealing that he almost died as a child trying to hold his breath underwater the longest. Susan reveals that she's pregnant and asks the gang not to go too far with this game. Chili suggests that all of this is staged by Jerry and that everyone is a hired actor to dupe them again. Hoji recognizes Cheryl Deakins and is surprised she was invited. Bob and Chili are both shocked to see her, causing some form of tension. Sable explains to Rebecca that Cheryl is someone whose presence causes strain in the group. She was Chili and Bob's very first crush from grade school. When they were kids, she was into Chili, breaking Bob's heart. Later on that same year, she started liking Bob, breaking Chili's heart. But she always did have a place in her heart for Chili as this feud went on for decades before she suddenly married a random doctor. Bob and Chili continue obsessing over Cheryl, and Jerry plants a seed to get Hoji and Anna arguing over which couple they like more, Cheryl and Bob or Cheryl and Chili. Chili makes his way to talk to Cheryl. They get along quite easily and he finds out that her husband is dead, which he can't hide his excitement about. Bob watches from afar as they get along and Jerry riles him up. Cheryl excuses herself to go to the restroom and Bob follows her inside. She tells him that this is the exact same move he pulled in junior year. He offers her a ride and a drink and they leave. Hoji pulls out a radio and communicates with the gang to get everyone into position. Bob does not respond as he is having a drink with Cheryl somewhere. The gang spots Jerry at the unguarded exit and he escapes in a golf car, while the gang follows him as he maneuvers away from them. Anna sits with Rebecca as she tells her that she can't play since the rules that they made when they were 9 state that girls aren't allowed and that she can get overly aggressive at times. They continue the chase until the gang crashes and everyone gets knocked out. They wake up much later in the woods and Jerry engages in guerrilla warfare to terrify them as they try to find him. Chili gets rammed by a log and is taken out. Sable says that this is getting too extreme, but Hoji tells him to buck up. Hoji gets snatched by a trap and is caught in a net. He tags Sybil and tells him he's the only one left and it's up to him to finish the job. Sybil spots Jerry in the woods and creeps up on him from behind before figuring out that it's a trap and gets tied to a tree and chloroformed by Jerry. Later on, the entire gang is in a car riding back to the bar in defeat. Hoji explains that Jerry woke up early to set all of this up to defeat them once again. Rebecca says that it seems that the game has kept the guys connected, except for Jerry. Anna replies. They say that outside of tag, they don't see Jerry that much, which puts the gang down. They arrive at the bar and meet up with Bob, who claims that he had a business call. He proposes an idea to go to Jerry's gym. Chili stays behind as he claims he injured his knee. He heads inside the bar and meets with Cheryl. The gang arrives at the gym and heads inside. They offer to pay the receptionist $1,500 to tell them where Jerry is, but he refuses. They threaten to waterboard him if he doesn't talk, and he says that they're bluffing. The gang snaps as Jerry has pushed them to the edge of their sanity in their desperate attempt to tag him. They quickly snap out of it and realize what they're doing. The man says that he'll tell them where Jerry's going to be on one condition, $2,000 cash. Why didn't he say that sooner? The man reveals to them that Jerry is going to an AA meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous, for those struggling with alcohol addiction, something that the gang had no idea about. Back at the bar, the gang catches Chili with Cheryl. Bob is furious and argues with Chili before Cheryl snaps and tells them that Jerry always gets in their head, revealing to them that Jerry invited her as a way to distract them, but she came anyway because she wanted to see them. And Jerry's plan obviously worked. She urges them to go catch Jerry as Hoji tries to rally the team together, and the boys get to work. They arrive at Jerry's meeting the next morning equipped with gear as they board up all possible exits. As Jerry is about to speak in the meeting, he turns into Sherlock again. He sniffs Chili coming from behind him and uses any means at his disposal to dodge the gang's combined effort to tag him. In another comedic moment, Jerry turns into an elite assassin to dodge the over-the-top attempts to get him. He breaks the window to find that they placed traps outside. He makes his way into a room and locks himself inside, and they engage in a waiting contest to see who leaves first. As they wait, they realize that Jerry is trapped in a room with an endless supply of alcohol. He throws them a note to taunt them, just as Susan arrives at the scene. Susan is furious as their wedding is going to start soon. Susan starts having a breakdown and appears to be having a miscarriage. Chili once again says it's an act and urges them to tag Jerry. Jerry becomes furious at them and threatens them to stay away as he leaves for the hospital. The gang returns home morally defeated. The wedding has been postponed, and the gang feels horrible for what they've done. Anna suggests that they've been lying. She sets up a fake account to reach one of the bridesmaids' Instagram and finds out that they faked a miscarriage to escape, causing Hoji to snap and lose control and destroy the room. He screams that they lost and Jerry beat them. Game over. He tells them that they have to come to terms with the fact that they just can't tag Jerry, he's untouchable. Hoji says that they can't try to tag him at the wedding as they will ruin it, and that would make them horrible friends. Chili reminds him that Jerry faked a miscarriage and that everything now is fair game, including the agreement they signed before, which is now nullified. Hoji tells them that it's time to grow up and leaves to go to the wedding. The gang arrives at the wedding and sees that Susan is completely fine, celebrating with her bridesmaids. She welcomes the gang and reveals that she was never pregnant, and that the miscarriage was her plan in case of an emergency. Susan tells them to step their game up next time and tells them to have a good time at the wedding. Jerry stands at the altar with Susan, and Hoji, overhearing a conversation between the staff, finds out that there's going to be an opening to make an attack. Hoji can't contain himself as he sprints off in one last desperate attempt to tag Jerry and finally break his undefeated record. Hoji is snapped back to reality as he completely misses Jerry and passes out on the floor. They call for a doctor and rush Hoji to the hospital, where a doctor reveals to them that Hoji has some type of condition. Cheryl arrives at the hospital and Bob urges Chili to talk to her. The two seemingly make up and settle their differences as Chili goes to talk to Cheryl. Chili confesses his feelings to Cheryl, who expresses a little interest back towards him. Jerry calls Hoji and accuses him of faking his sickness. Hoji tells him that he's not, and reveals that he has a tumor in his liver. He assures the gang that he's not lying about his sickness, but reveals that he did lie about Jerry retiring at the end of the season. He did that to get the gang back together again for one final run, as there is a decent chance he won't live to play another season of tag. Hoji tells the gang that he loves them as well as the game and apologizes to Jerry for ruining his wedding. Jerry hangs up and immediately enters the room. Jerry apologizes to them that he didn't have the boys up at the altar by his side, and that he always thought that the gang were closer to each other than they were to him. Bob explains to him that they're only physically closer as Jerry always successfully ran away from them, and that he might be the greatest tag player on the planet. Hoji reminds them that the purpose of the game was to bring them closer, instead of driving them away. Hoji asks Jerry to let him tag him in the final minutes of Hoji's last season. Jerry admits that he's been too attached to his perfect record all these years against them, and cannot physically allow himself to be tagged. Hoji tells him that he won't tag anyone else and he'll let the game die with him. In a final moment, Jerry finally allows himself to be tagged, and the gang erupts in celebration. With 5 minutes left in May, Jerry says that he won't be the last and tags Sybil and runs away. The gang is unleashed around the hospital as they all play their game in what is left of the month. They make a verbal amendment allowing the women to play as well. With 3 minutes left, everyone is taking part in the game now around the hospital, showing us what the essence of the game is all about: a group of friends staying close to each other despite the circumstances. The film closes with footage of the real-life counterparts of our characters as they play their game of tag and get each other. We finally see the Wall Street article published about them, and with that conclude the film. This is the biggest feel-good movie you are going to see. It is such a wholesome story about friendship and how time only drew them closer together through this game of tag. The only thing that could have possibly made this movie better was the addition of Will Ferrell and Jack Black, who were originally part of the cast, but unfortunately fell through for some unknown reason. Imagine Will Ferrell being part of this already awesome movie. Well, this brings us to the end of today's video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel to get more videos like this one. Your support is so important. And tell me what you think about this film. Did you play tag much when you were younger? Would you be willing to copy and play the same game of tag for years? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of them. And if you're watching till now, thank you. I'll see you in another video soon.